Hey nerds, Fino here to tell you about King Hassan, aka First Hassan. This dude goes around chopping off heads like the lawnmower from Caligula. Maybe that should have been the opening bit. But enough of that. Let's get to brass tacks. Grandpa's first skill is Battle Continuation. 5-turn duration with a generous 5k health at max level. Not bad. Secondly, we have Protection of the Faith. This is a 4-piece buff with 3 turns of buff resistance and attack, 1 turn of defense, and a heal to boot. Despite the clutch defense buff, you'll be popping this on cooldown in most situations. That said, it does have some tactical flexibility, and you can adjust your timing to account for the matchup. Thirdly, we have Evening Bell. This is a clutch buster amp that also reduces death resistance for all enemies. The second part's not really relevant unless you pair him with Caster Nitocris and you want them to nuke the same wave. Seems a bit niche. The buster amp is the fun part. You can save it for Azrael or use it with a Buster Brave Chain. Either works fine. Moving on to his Noble Phantasm, we have Azrael. It's a straightforward single-target buster nuke that supposedly has a high instant death chance. In reality, it's a crapshoot, but we'll get back to that. How's that famous quote go? Probability is the hobgoblin of little minds? Close enough. Normally I don't talk about passives, but At the Boundary is very unusual. Complete instant death immunity, a significant, though not absolute, charm resistance, and a small chance to instantly kill on any hit. That last part's cool. Flavorful for sure. But in reality, you'll beat an enemy to death before it ever procs. The other parts are more practical. Not on a day-to-day basis, but some story and challenging content have instant death and charm mechanics, so Gramps can cheese that. Good stuff. If we take his kit as a whole, it's clear that he's a buster beatstick and very straightforward in application. That said, let's explore some teams. I showed a similar team with Musashi, but King Hassan is a solo artist if there ever was one. His triple buster deck means that if you leave him by himself, he can melt enemies with Buster Brave Chains. You may have noticed that he doesn't have evasion or invuln, but I found that's not a deal breaker. Between class advantage and the defense buff on Protection of Faith, you can tank through 1 or 2 NPs. Battle Continuation gives you like 5k health. If you're on the ropes, the Atlas uniform will give you invuln and cooldown reduction. I used King Hassan to fight the Bull of Heaven in Summer 2, and it's pure tank and spank. He's very good for this. This one's a meme team, but it's not the meme team. That comes next. So one of the issues with the Assassin class is that you bring them into Rider battles. This inherently gives them a degree of anti-synergy with supportive casters. That wouldn't really stop you from using Waver or Merlin, but it does diminish their effectiveness since they can explode at any time. But there is a support assassin. Meet the Neat. Osakabe Hime is a weird and frankly not very good servant. And get this. To fix this mediocre quick support, they gave her a buster buff. Of course. It's weird and kinda dumb, but this change actually gives her some decent synergy with King Hassan. Her NP increases defense and max health, and it gives a quick and buster buff, all across the board. This plays into Gramps and his weird tank and spank playstyle, and with some 2030s, you can crit enough to keep the good times going. Their synergy actually goes beyond Oki's NP. She's also got a personal defense buff, targeted NP charge, and a defense down that purges buffs. King Hassan has no inherent way of countering evasion or invuln, so again, a nice compliment. Let's move on to the elephant in the room, instant death. I'll be real with you, it's a meme. Nitocris and Sabershiki can use it in some farming situations, but the big, flashy single-target ones don't do a whole lot as time goes by. The reason for this is the death rate formula. I'll throw it up on screen, and the short version is that a lot of the things you do affect that third section. The problem is that when you multiply something by a fraction, it tends to get real small. The second segment is determined entirely by a value that the enemy controls, their own death rate. Bronze enemies tend to be vulnerable, but mid-bosses and servants have comically low death rates. Here's an example. Let's say you want to kill Saber Altar. You might look at a wiki and see 19.2%, but that only applies to your Salter. Enemy servants operate under separate values, typically around 0.1%. I calculated a near-optimal case for the factors you control. Limit Broken Hydra Dagger, Assassin Shiki's Bond CE, 500% overcharge on King Hassan, Evening Bell, and both Mystic Eyes. With all this taken into account, the odds of instant death are still less than 1%. Running the numbers against the dragon gets a pitiful 8.4%. Yeah, it's really bad. Sometimes you fight bulky bronze enemies, and these you can insta-kill with regularity, but by and large you shouldn't invest in gimmicky instant death teams. In most situations where it matters, Assassin Shiki and Caster Nitocris get the job done by themselves. These were the extreme options. Gramps is okay in standard comps too. If you run him with double Merlin or Merlin Waver, you'll want to use a Star Absorption CE, but that combo works for just about anything. I don't have any experience with this, but App Media recommends comboing him with Semiramis. She's got AoE damage and a Buster Resistance debuff, so I could see it working. Craft essence-wise, Sumo and Limited Zero Over are my standard picks. App Media recommends Iron Will Training, which makes a sort of sense. King Hassan is fairly durable, and having that defense increases the value of your effective HP. If you're trying to survive between Guts procs, it should do the trick. His Bondcraft Essence gives a 100% bonus to his debuff resistance. Keep it in the back of your head for certain gimmicky fights, but by and large it's unnecessary. There's one more to consider. Fondant au Chocolat. It gives a persistent and large bonus against divine enemies. Combine this with the fact that a lot of significant riders are divine: Ishtar, Achilles, Quetzalcoatl, Ozymandias, Kintoki, Martha, Iskandar, Medusa, and Ryoma. Not to mention the Bull of Heaven. King Hassan is uniquely qualified to fight that bastard, and this craft essence is a key part of that strategy, along with the Atlas uniform. Let's go over some miscellaneous notes. This guy's material costs are brutal. King Hassan may not want your head, but he'll take an arm and a leg. Truckloads of chains, bones, and needles. Oh god, the needles. In the stat contest, he's got the second highest attack in his class. Apparently Shuten could win in a fistfight, but consider this. King Hassan is in a much better position to leverage his attack than she is. A Buster Brave Chain is going to outperform Arch Quick Slurry in a face race. His real rival is actually Jack. They fight in completely different ways, but their targets tend to be similar. Jack's Return to the Womb Jutsu is pretty good at taking women down. A lot of those in the Rider class. And she has sustained damage via crits. She also has better synergy with Scotty than he does with Merlin, and she can work as a supportive attacker while he can't. Actually, come to think of it, she might have better synergy with Merlin than he does. Huh. My impression is that he outperforms her in super long fights because of his durability, but she's much more flexible, so pick your poison. If you're looking for pure value, King Hassan might be worth skipping, especially if you have Jack. Unlike other supports, attackers like these generally don't benefit from doubling up, so you can fish in your support list whenever you need him. The overall power level is going to be lower this year, but you have stuff like the Summer Banners, Saber Imperio, Melt Lilith, and the return of Raiko and Dantes. They'll give you more bang for your buck. Of course, these are also attackers, so you don't need them. Taken on his own merits, King Hassan is a pretty interesting character. He's got those Skull Knight style points, and being a viable soloist is always nice. Oh, and his NP has this super swag thing where it skips the death animations for things it kills. This was a bug and they patched it out, but people liked it so much that they put the bug back into the game. Is that cool or what? And that's all I got. I'm gonna roll for King Hassan on Sunday, so if you want to come and watch, the link's down below. See you next time.